All
Hi,
right.
everyone.
So Tracy, it's so good to see you again. It's been a while for me. I think last time I saw you was when you were in Dallas for one of our
Yes,
events.
it was. It was in Dallas for Boas and Tiaras, and I was actually a blonde. So that's how long it was. Pre-COVID. It was, I think, 2019, right before COVID.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to sign up and host a table for Boas and Tiaras next year. So I've
Oh,
already
we
filled
would
out my form.
always like to see you here in Dallas. So
Thank you.
looking
Thank you very
forward to
much.
that.
I appreciate that.
And I know when I met you in Dallas that I got introduced to you in some of the other genres that you wrote.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I have
like
written
me, for
very
some of
hot.
our
Yeah.
other readers that are new to you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Tracy Goodwin, and I'm a USA Today bestseller. I started my career in historical romance. So I have 5 historical romances, 4 of which are also available in Audible. And so we've got audio CDs and we've got Audible as well. They're available in ebook and print. So that's how I started my career. I switched to contemporary sports rom-com romance for Penguin Random House for their Love Swept line. And that's when you saw me for Ice Hot. And those are the shirtless male covers that I kind of have back here that you can see. They're an ebook only and also an audio. The audio is so hot. The male narrator, Tor Tom, is fantastic. So that's when you saw me promoting Ice Hot. Then Ice Hard came out end of 2019, I believe, I want to say. And then COVID hit. I've got Ice Storm coming out, depending on when they record the audio. It's scheduled for November of this year. It's the 3rd in the series, but I'm working on copy edits right now for it. So that's exciting. Those are all super hot books for me. I also wrote one paranormal with no sex. So it was more of a YA paranormal. It was supposed to be a series, then the offer from Random House came through and I could not pass it up. So brand new genre, started over again. And then I ended up pitching With Neighbors Like This to Source Books, and with the idea of starting off at an Easter bunny hunt where the secret HOA president ends up having, abs of steel, and the mom walks in on him with the 2 children who believe in the Easter bunny, because of course the Easter bunny is real, as I've told my own children. The Easter bunny, Santa, they're all real. There are so many of them because they have helpers, because EB can't be everywhere and Santa can't be everywhere. So let's just, make sure everyone knows that. And my kids have asked me at times, and I'm like, look, Santa's in my speed dial, okay? And I can call him right now. So there's this hot hero, and she ends up walking in, and the kids have, the screaming match of, oh my God, he's not real. Yes, he is. It's a helper. What do you do? He buys candy. I don't know. He buys candy. Well, yeah, he buys candy. So that whole thing, we proposed it to Source Books and they ended up purchasing it, and it turned out to be With Neighbors Like This. And as for gnomes, I've been giving away this in 3 different colors with the purchase of the book. So if you saw me at Book Lovers Con, I wasn't there for the whole thing. Unfortunately, I had COVID scare, but per CDC guidelines, I had 2 negative tests, over a week apart. So I was giving these away in 3 different colors. But a gnome that my husband got me for Valentine's Day was this right here. And it was because of the book. So I have several gnomes just for this book alone. And this is one with the heart and the romance that kind of got me. So there's my heart.
I think you will now forever have gnomes.
I think so. I think so. My kids are so excited about it. So we bought an outdoor gnome with the LED lights. They're solar that go on at night. And the kids are so excited about it that they now want to get one for not just summer, but like every holiday. They look
of course.
for, yes, Halloween gnomes, fall gnomes, Christmas gnomes, you name it. So yes.
And you are the one that laid the groundwork for that. So you're not going to be able to blame anyone else. I
really am. So while this is a more slow burn, I don't want to use the word sweet romance, but I've had reviews say that it's like a Hallmark movie in a book, and that just touches me a lot. So yeah, Yeah, gnomes that light up, very good idea. You should see our garden because we've got a lot of solar lights and including flower ones, and it's beautiful. Absolutely
One
beautiful.
of the
Dogs
things
love
that
it.
I really loved about this book, because it was classified as women's fiction, and a lot of times the women's fiction that I come across now, there's always some depressing element to that. But even the descriptions of this book, and I love this, it's uplifting
Yeah.
fiction.
Yeah.
And the mom calm, which was a term I hadn't heard of either. And it was just so charming throughout. And I was like, that's the kind of women's fiction I want to read, where it is uplifting. Because I think I just had a smile the entire time I was reading the book.
And I had one when I was writing it. I have to admit, personally, there's a lot of my family in this book. I got the idea, my husband actually is the HOA president and has been for years of our subdivision. So names have been changed to protect those who might be doing yoga in their driveways during COVID, but yes, I am quite aware of little neighborhood happenings here and there. And he does do the Easter egg hunt each year. Doesn't dress like the Easter Bunny, but hosts it. And we've got the pictures with the Easter Bunny every year with the kids, short of COVID. So it was really interesting to have like our 2019 pictures, and then suddenly 2022 this year was the first one. It was like, oh my gosh, the kids have grown so much in those years. But even the conversations with the kids, like my daughter actually went to school and she was actually told by a boy, I want to marry you. And then by lunchtime, nope, I'm marrying your friend so-and-so. And it was like, oh my gosh, she got into the car in the carpool lane and she just burst into tears in the car. And there's my son going, okay, I'm going to handle this. Let me talk to so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, no, not necessary, unnecessary. And I actually had to talk with her that, honey, number one, I'm not going to let you marry him because he doesn't appreciate you. So that's out of the question right there. But number two, how are you planning on living? Like, who's paying for, I don't know, roof over your head, your Wi-Fi, your, subscription services like Disney Plus, you're not going to do that? Well, no. And especially not if you marry him. Number one, you're too young. And number two, he doesn't appreciate you. So absolutely not. He's off limits. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then she stayed friends with the girl and, it was awesome. So she learned her lesson. And I think I might have introduced her to the Pussycat Dolls. I don't need a man at that point. And one of our songs going to school one day was, I don't need a man. I don't need a man. And I'm like, you don't need a boy. You don't need a boy right now, really. And she took it to heart. So, it's funny when I pitched this and when I wrote it, those funny scenes were always in there because it's a part of who my kids are. And I really was able to channel that into this book. That's why this book, I love every single book I've written. And I really do. And it's very hard for me to choose a favorite, but I will say this is the book of my heart. It represents my family. It represents, there's so much in it that represents things we've gone through, including found pets or found amphibians that, that got us through COVID. There's so much that I was able to really rely on and then take it from there and make it more literary. But the foundation was there,
Even the dreaded HOA
we don't
nemesis.
have gnomes. Yeah, we don't have gnomes in our HOA. So I will tell you that they are banned. They are banned. So that's a big bone of contention, especially with a management company, because it's funny, with my husband being on the board, it's like, I really don't care, but the management company would say something, and I'll always remember it was a rainy summer in Houston, like really rainy, unlike this one, which has been dry.
I was like, when is it not rainy in Houston?
This year, it's been dry as a bone. Our water prices are up, everything, we've had over 100-degree days, sunny throughout most of this summer. But we had this section of the side of our house that we couldn't mow because it was nothing but grass and mud. And we ended up getting a letter for 3 daffodils, which are considered weeds that grew up in there. And it was like, we just got a letter and we can't even mow it. So I had to go out with scissors and clip them so they wouldn't, say anything about it. But yes, it's funny. My husband's and the board switched management companies after this book came out. Or as it was coming out, I should say. It was this year, but I didn't know that this was a foretelling of things to come. But for reasons that the board knows, that I'm not privy to, they did switch management companies for the best. So I love it now because people can actually hang their flags, which is legal in the state of Texas, not only to hang the American flag, but the Texas flag. And they won't get letters. I know they get letters for other things that bylaws are bylaws, right? You try to change as much as you can, but living in HOAs for people that don't live in HOA communities, we're originally from New York. So this was new to me when we moved 20 something years ago in 2002. And yeah, it's been a learning curve as far as what they allow.
But I would think fodder for just lots of stories ahead.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Right.
Very much so. Very much so. So yes, it was definitely fun to write, and it was fun to be able to think of this on the fly and really think through life journeys and and how much of it came into this book.
Are you going to stay in the women's fiction genre? Because there's definitely characters in this book that I want to see what their story is.
And there are characters that I want you to see their stories. I have written another one with one of her best friends, and my intention was making it 3 books with the best friends. So we'll see what happens. In addition to that, I have some other proposals in mind as well that I think you'll love. So definitely we're going to stick with the rom-com aspect of it regardless, because I love writing emotion. That's something that's very strong to me. I get to know my characters and I'm able to emotionally connect with them. But I also love the comedy aspects of it, because I believe that you have to have laughter in order to get through life. It's hard to stay positive all the time. Trust me, I'm not positive all the time, but I have to remind myself that there are people that have it much worse. And even on my worst days, it's like, you got to think of something to laugh about. And if that comes from the cat, if it comes from the dog, if it comes from my kids, if it comes from the gecko in the backyard that the dog is afraid of, and the dog's 33 pounds, supposed to be a Chihuahua, but that's a whole nother story, or the frogs that the dog hears and sniffs, but doesn't quite know where they are. And every time she gets close to them, she then walks away like, okay, I don't know what that is. So, there are little things like that if you find 1 or 2 of them each day that you can laugh at, it makes life a little easier.
What did you find different in writing the women's fiction versus the sports, the historical, and even the urban fantasy with the YA?
A lot. And this actually started out being proposed, and my contract was for the Sexy Single Moms Club. So it was supposed to be a sexy book. And that's what I handed in initially. And my editor had wanted to make it a women's fiction. So she had told me about that, and it was definitely a challenge. It was something I'd never written before, so I was a little bit nervous. But yes, I had to change the whole point of view. So there was no one person point of view, male, female. It was all 3rd person point of view. So I remember it was an 85,000 word manuscript. And when I got it back after editing and finding out that we were changing direction, I think it was 18,000 words, maybe 15,000. Wow. And I still had to change the rest of it because of point of view and everything. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely less of the romance journey and more of the woman's journey. And it turned into her finding herself. And it turned into what I feel is something we can all relate to with the school and with the bullying of one of her children, and and really delving deep into her journey as being recently divorced. It wasn't something she wanted. It came out of the blue. It gutted her. And then here she finds this great guy, but she really doesn't want to subject her kids to something that's not going to last. So it was, for me, that was it fulfilled me. It really did, going deep emotionally. And there were scenes that, especially one of the final scenes where, they're talking about, even the Avengers can't win every time.
Yeah.
It was a very cathartic scene for me because I laughed, I cried, and and then at the end they find their happy ending. But it was definitely different in terms of, obviously no steam, no sex, no curse words. I think I slipped one in there.
Couple there, yeah.
But I did mention the swear.
But you had the swear jar, so I think it evened out, right?
And I thought it was kind of interesting that even if she thinks the curse word, she puts money in the swear jar because she's that honest. So gotta love Amelia's honesty there, But yeah, so it was fun. It was definitely fun. And I thank my editor for challenging me, because I am very proud of this book and how it turned out. And still, it'll always be a book that's in my heart, near and dear. So I'm very thrilled that people have had the reactions that they've had to it. I really am. And I'm glad that you enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
I love the description of it, because that's really how I felt when I was reading it. And you did still have that romance thread throughout. So it still fed my romance craving part there too.
Yes.
So it was all good. Tracy, I want to switch over to some of our fresh fiction fun facts. So these are hopefully some quick type questions, not lots of thought to go into them necessarily. Just kind of what occurs to you. And we'll start off with some easier ones. Are you a plotter or a pantser?
Ooh, I'm a plotter,
Mm-hmm.
because I always have to write a synopsis. Although I will be honest, sometimes I pants, especially when it comes to conflict. I tend to get more conflict as I write the book. My plotting is I try to go chapter per chapter as I'm writing it. And then I'll always go back and start maybe 3 or 4 chapters prior to, go over them, and then continue, because it helps me know my characters even better and deeper and get to know them deeply. And that helps a lot. So I would say I'm part and part. The conflict, I'm high empathy. I've taken the Clifton Strengths test, and with Becca Syme, I'm on her Patreon. So I have like micro coaching once a month. Number 1, empathy. Like 3 of my top 5 are all about emotion. So that, to me, it's very hard to put my darlings through a lot of conflict. So I have to really pump that up as I'm writing, because and then I know them more. So I know their strengths, I know their weaknesses. I have written them, I've gone back, I've layered them. So then the conflict gets real. And with this one, it was with Carla as well. I knew where it was going, but some of the things she did ended up later. Like I knew she was going to be a pain in the what, but the getting on her front lawn and taking the photo, that kind of came with writing that scene where she was going to see Carla, but then I'm like, instead of being in her car, Carla's going to be on her front lawn, and that's how that came up. So yeah, I think with me, I have to be a little bit of both, but plotting mostly. But pantsing, yeah, I still am. I'm an anomaly, I guess. I'm both.
How do you see how exactly do the characters come to you then? Do you see them? Do you hear them? Is it like a movie on screen for you? Since you're saying that you're very empathetic, do they just constantly live in your head?
They do. And I've often joked that I hear voices, and that's why I write, because those voices tell me that they need their stories told. And it's true. And even with my historicals, there was the 3rd book And those two characters in that third book, ever since I wrote the first book, the second was so hard for me because the two in the third book kept coming on really strong. And I had to tell the second story. And it was like, okay, just wait your turn. Just wait your turn. But yes, I do think of everything and I see it in my mind. It's funny because when I wrote, I used to always have someone in mind, like Ian Somerhalder over here. You know, I have an autographed picture of him from eBay. Thank you very much, Ian. And Hugh Jackman. They were both center stage. So one was the first book, the other was the character that ended up being the hero in the third, but he was throughout the whole series. Now I don't really need those pictures because it's all in here. It's all in my brain. And I see the scenes unfold. And I see, you know, even with this one, the kids running and the little girl running with the, you know, the tail that's, you know, half off and the bow in the back that's haphazard, and, you know, their kids getting just sweaty and disgusting with mulch. And I see it all unfold. So yes, I do.
What is your favorite writing fuel?
What's my favorite what?
Writing fuel.
Ooh, writing fuel has to be music for me. It does. And there are times that I don't, like, I'll turn it off when I'm writing, but showing my age, I heart 80s is.
There's nothing wrong with that. Come on.
I've started with the 90s, but still the 80s. And George Michael is one of my all-time favorites. Actually, here he is, one of those cards that we used to have in the 80s, signed by him. But he is one of my favorite all-time singers. And with him, yes, I'll listen to my playlist with him a lot too, because he's just got such a great range, and him along with Freddie Mercury are two of my favorite singers of all times. But yeah, the I Heart 80s gets me kind of pumped up, and you know, sometimes it's Don't Stop Believin'. Eminem's Lose Yourself. You know, it depends on the mood that I'm in. If I'm not going to be listening to music when I'm writing, I still need to listen to something to get myself going that I can do it. So yeah, Don't Stop Believing and you know, Lose Yourself is one of two songs that one of each I will listen to and kind of get myself.
You change up the music depending on the types of scenes that you're having to write?
I do. I have different playlists, like conflict, you know, love, romantic. If I'm writing a sexy book, there'll be sexy times playlist, you know, so definitely. Absolutely.
How do you celebrate a new release?
Oh, you know, it's funny. I'm sorry, my dog is squeaking. her favorite, she has a few dinosaurs and they're her favorite, and she loves squeaking them. So I think my kids are like napping right now, not realizing that the dog is in the office where she's not supposed to be, but or they're watching TV or on their tablets. Yes. So what were you asking me? I'm sorry. The dog got it.
How do you celebrate a new release?
Yeah, I used to celebrate by buying myself a purse. That's how I used to celebrate. I would go to Burlington and I would get myself a designer purse that was very low priced. Since COVID, I've found Kate Spade's Surprise. So my husband actually got me a purse that matches the color scheme of the cover. So it actually matches a little bit of the purple, a little bit of blue, it's a dark purple that I wore at Book Lovers Con this weekend. But yeah, that I don't know if we're going to do that with Ice Storm. We'll see. We might mix it up, but I'd love to say we go out to dinner and, you know, but it always tends to be just your average day where you're doing promo and you're still working. So thank you. My daughter just
came to get the dog.
Dinosaur. So so we're going to be squeaka free for a while, but yes, so that's how I usually celebrate a release. You know, it's funny, you wait so much time for the book to come out and you want to celebrate it, and I've got a bottle of champagne in there, I think from 3 books ago, that we've never opened. So yes, someday we'll get to the point where we actually celebrate releases, my husband and I, and like, toast some champagne or go out to dinner or something. But it always seems to fall in a work week, and it hasn't happened yet. Though we did take the kids to lunch this weekend to celebrate the release of this one. It was a little bit late, but that doesn't matter because we were able to go to our local Barnes and Noble. I was able to sign some copies. A couple of them were sold while we were there.
That's
And
cool.
then we went to dinner and we celebrated the release. So that was lovely. And I had a margarita. So that's nice. It doesn't happen on the day of, but hey, a margarita.
As long
and
as you
dinner with
celebrate
family.
at some point. I mean,
Yep.
that's the good thing, right?
Absolutely. And so that's lovely. Yeah. And I'd like to do that every time. It doesn't have to be release day, but just at some point, and that's what we did. So I think that's going to be our new tradition.
Oh, cool. What luxury item or unnecessary product or service can you absolutely just not live without?
Oh man, that's tough. Luxury item, product, or service. I don't know. I'd have to go with some sort of lipstick, but there's not one in particular. Actually, there was one in particular. It was Bite Beauty, and they had lipstick and they had lip crayon. And this is the lipstick I'm wearing today. And Bite has gone out of business. So
Ooh.
I kind of have to find a new lipstick now. They were all vegan. It was great on my lips. It lasted a long time. It was moisturizing. And I was very disappointed when I went to their website. And it's like, okay, they don't have many colors and everything is really discounted. What's going on here? So I Googled it and they're out of business. I'm like, oh
No.
But yes, so I think I will soon figure out how to live without it.
No, I can relate because there was one that I would always get whenever I would fly through Heathrow in London, and because it was just a better price than any time I found it here in the States because tax-free and all this. And they'd always make fun of me because the English pronunciation was slightly different than the American pronunciation. Go figure. But I would come back and I just have all these stashes of lipstick, and it's like,
There you
yes,
go.
This is my overseas purchase. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's it.
Instead of duty-free alcohol, I picked up duty-free lipsticks.
That's right. Unfortunately, with the masks, you can't really see your lips, but
Exactly.
it's okay. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I have the stash when I can go back out without the masks and beyond COVID. So
Good. That's good. Or for times like this.
yes.
Because I've gotten used to not wearing makeup and not doing my hair. So this is, you guys are special for me. This is special.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see. Who was your most interesting house guest?
Ooh. Well, let's see. It was for the RWA conference. It was either 2005 or 2006, and we were in Dallas. So I hosted 3 romance authors, Leanne Burke, Hannah Howell, and Murag McKendrick Pippin in my house. And it was prior to us having children. So that was pretty interesting. And one of them was our guest bedroom, and the other, we had air mattresses. And one of the air mattresses had a hole in it. So, but that was a very interesting time because that's that rainy summer that I was telling you about. So we were going to go and meet up with some other authors, but it was flooded. So we couldn't get to where we were going because Houston has very low roads. So, the more we're north of Houston, obviously the town I wrote about is fictional, but we are in a suburb north of Houston. And you start going down and it floods a lot around here. Yeah, Houston floods. So we ended up staying in the rain. It was a fun time with all of them. And then we ended up driving to Dallas. And the funny thing was there was so much luggage. And one of my guests came from Hawaii and she had a ton of luggage. And even though I had an SUV, one of the other authors was freaking out because she's like, there's no way we're going to fit all this. There's no way. And the whole SUV is like, from here up, it was just luggage. in the back. It was hysterical. It really was. So
Well,
yeah,
Tracy,
I have to go with that one.
wow. Okay. Gosh. Well, we're hitting the end of our time. So what is the best way for our readers to stay in touch with you and keep up with your writing?
Well, definitely go to my website, www.tracygoodwin.com. You can sign up for my newsletter there. You can also follow me on BookBub through there. I've got all the social media icons, Facebook, Twitter, Insta. I do have a personal Facebook as well as an author page. I'm trying to keep up with both. I do post a lot on Instagram, and there is Twitter. So a lot of my personal stuff isn't necessarily on Twitter, but if you go to my Facebook page and my Instagram page, you'll see pictures of the kids and that sort of thing. And you'll even find a picture of us with the Easter Bunny. Yeah,
Hey.
if you scroll down enough, you will see that. Yes, absolutely.
And even though With Neighbors Like This just came out, what can our readers look forward to next?
Well, we've got a lot in the pipeline, nothing I can announce just yet, but it is coming out. Let's see, I don't have the date in front of me. Let's see, what is it? Tomorrow it will be out in audio, narrated by Eva Wilhelm. So I'm really excited about that. I can't wait to get my hands on the audio CD of it, but it'll be available through Audible and anywhere else that you might find the MP3 audio. And then we've got Ice Storm coming out, which is the third in the Nighthawk series, which is the hockey romance series. And that should be in November. So that's going to be another steamy romance. It's going to be about the character of Thor, also known as Theo, but he is Thor. So he is the biggest, the man with the biggest stick on ice, I think is how I put it. But he is an audience favorite who happens to be going secretly through an injury that might be career ending. And then he falls for his best friend's sister, who was his friend, and she's a former actress. So that's going to be a fun one.
Hey, I am always up for the sexy hockey books, so
Oh,
I will be looking forward to that one.
I've loved each and every one of my sexy hockey guys, you know, from the first one to the second one to the third. And I am an Avengers fan, so you will find that in most of my books there are Avengers references, because that's just who I am. And if you ever met me in person, you may or may not notice my license plates have some reference to the Avengers. Just saying. But yes,
Love that.
I am definitely an Avengers fan. Not like you can tell by all the Funko Pops.
Oh, I know, right? The Funkos just happen to be
not
there.
to
right?
give that away at all. You know?
Well, Tracy, it was so great talking with you, and hopefully you will stick around for some Q&A with our readers in our after party.
I look forward to it, and thank you so much for hosting me and for reading with neighbors like this. It is always wonderful to speak to readers, and I appreciate you doing a book club with me. So thank you so much. This is
a lot of fun.
Absolutely.